Where was that? Yes. Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, very shortly, like in the next, say, 5 minutes, we'll be starting with our first speaker session this morning, and it is with someone who has a ludicrously impressive CV, a former British Royal Navy aircrew officer, exercise physiologist, nutritionist, neuroscientist. You're going to be hearing quite a bit from Paul Taylor this morning, but having heard and experienced his talks about 12 months ago at the WorkSafe conference in Launceston, it was a cracker. So I hope that you'll be able to return and be with us here in front of the stage at 10 o'clock for Paul Taylor. Welcome back, everyone, and good morning again. Well, welcome to our first speaker session as part of Expo here at the beautiful waterfront of Hobart. Our first speaker has this scary CV that I mentioned earlier, a former British Royal Navy air crew officer, no less, an exercise physiologist, nutritionist, and neuroscientist. He's the director of Body Brain Performance Institute, where he delivers executive performance, resilience, and leadership workshops to large companies. And in case you're wondering, you'll probably recognise his face because he has appeared on the telly. He was a consultant regularly with The Biggest Loser TV series. In 2012, Paul practiced what he preaches about resilience training and became a professional boxer, as you do. And in his spare time, he is currently undertaking a PhD in medical studies with the University of Tasmania. So I think that kind of makes him an honorary Tasmanian. So with this fascinating background of military training, nutrition, health, fitness and competitive sport, it's no wonder that Paul Taylor has been invited to be our first speaker this morning to speak on the ultimate trilogy of health, safety and performance. Would you make him very welcome?
Thank you, Jane. So guys, I've got about half an hour to do probably 45 minutes worth of content. So just want to make sure that everybody's brain is awake and engaged. Can you all copy me, please? So that should be your right hand that's out. How many people have got their left hand out? We got a few. Now with your other hand, why don't you point your finger at me? And now, I just want you to engage your brain. You should have one thumb up, one finger out. Just engage your brain and switch. Should be pretty easy, right? Switch back, switch. Switch, switch, maybe not. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to talk about is the confluence of both health, safety, and performance, because for me, you can't kind of dissect those three things. They all interact very, very strongly. And we know that there's been a watershed moment over the last 10 years. For the first time in human history, global deaths by non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, and cardiovascular disease and diabetes outweigh global deaths by communicable diseases such as malaria. And we now know that particularly in the Western world, lifestyle is now the leading cause of death. And here we can see the leading lifestyle conditions that contribute to those deaths. So tobacco use, high blood pressure, high blood glucose, physical inactivity, and overweight and obesity. So they're all linked to, obviously, to health behaviours, and that's where I want to draw the connection. But I want to dive a little bit deeper and talk about something called disability-adjusted life years. So this is the combination of morbidity and mortality. So it's the years lost due to a combination of early death and people being sick or not well. And we can see that the single biggest driver of disability-adjusted life years is depression. But if we look at these top six, depression, ischemic heart disease, dementia, alcohol abuse, diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, we now know that all six of those have a large component of lifestyle and behavioural choices. So I want to now talk a little bit about presenteeism. Who's heard of presenteeism? Anybody in the audience? Yeah, quite a few. Excellent. So you all know it's at work, but not productive. And we now know that presenteeism is very strongly linked to medical conditions. And it has what we call a dose-response relationship. So the more medical conditions you have or medical risks, the higher your level of presenteeism tends to be. So we know that healthy workers are the most productive workers, and the sickest workers are the least productive workers. This is what this presenteeism is telling us. And Medibank Private, in their research series a number of years ago, showed that in 2010, presenteeism cost the Australian economy about $34 billion, which is a hell of a lot of money, and it's projected to get worse. And we also know that it's linked to safety. That when people have presenteeism driven by medical conditions, they tend to have more safety incidents. So for me, that's the connection between health and safety and well-being. And we know that when a worker has presenteeism, it impacts on their cognitive function. So their judgment goes down, their ability to remember things goes down, their reasoning skills actually go down as well, and it impacts on motor function, both major and minor motor function, so they're more likely to have accidents, and also hand-to-eye coordination. That's hard to say on a Monday morning. So any of those functions that are impaired, we get higher levels of incidence, we get decreased productivity, and a higher level of accidents. So for me, there's where all the things combine. So what I want to talk about in the 25 minutes I have remaining is, for me, 8 habits of healthy, safe, and high-performing individuals. So, and I could have picked a whole heap of things, but I wanted to pick a number of things that would give a bit of a spread, that would impact on not only your health, but also your performance and your safety. So the first thing is a morning workout. Who here has done a morning workout? Okay, for the people with their hand up, we know your brains are functioning better than the people who don't have their hands up. There is so much literature on this. The research is absolutely unequivocal that exercise is actually brain food. And it improves people's cognitive abilities. Cognitive function goes up, neuroplasticity, concentration, learning, memory, and executive function. So that is planning, judgment, all of those things that obviously tie into not just health and performance, but also tie into safety. So the other thing that we know is that exercise is a very, very strong driver of gene expression, and it supports mental health. So when we exercise, it releases a whole cascade of neurochemicals. So serotonin and dopamine, which are important neurotransmitters for brain health, but it also releases endorphins, which are feel-good chemicals, and it releases something called BDNF, which is a really important growth factor in the brain. And we now know that not only does that help you grow new brain cells anytime in life, but it also supports good mental health. So this BDNF is really important. So that's the exercise thing. And guys, it doesn't need to be heaps. This is the big thing on exercise. A lot of people think you have to go to the gym to work out. Most of my workouts are under 10 minutes, and they're all body weight stuff. So you don't actually need to leave your house to do an effective workout. You can get a really good one that will boost your brain function in less than 10 minutes at home. So the next thing I want to talk about is cold showers. Anybody here have cold showers? Wow. That's a large proportion of the audience. And you actually get, this is the only place in Australia where you actually do get cold showers, I reckon. You certainly don't get them up in Queensland. So a lot of people say, well, why on earth would you do cold showers? Well, there's a number of reasons why you should have cold showers. And I'm not talking about having your entire shower as a cold shower. I'm talking about the last 10 to 30 seconds as a cold shower. We know that it releases the neurotransmitter norepinephrine, which has a big impact on your mood, but also helps to drive stress resistance. So this is a really critical chemical if you want to improve your stress responsivity, is having those cold showers. Exercise also releases norepinephrine, which is why it helps to control stress levels. And it releases a whole cascade of stress response proteins that actually help protect your cells and increase your resistance to stress. And it upregulates your immune system. So these stress response systems actually help to uplift your immune system. And now we're seeing cold water therapy being used for a whole heap of things, such as chronic pain and inflammatory conditions as well. But for me, the other reason, which is a very important reason why you should do cold showers, is that it is really uncomfortable to do a cold shower. And it's that decision about, do I turn this lovely hot shower into a cold shower? You're standing there saying, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? And it's an exercise in willpower and in grit. And grit, I best describe as getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we know that grit, people who have grit, tend to be much more resilient in all aspects of their lives. So having a cold shower in the morning is a good way to train your grit levels or your levels of resilience. We also know that just last year they did a study in Holland which looked at the impact of cold showers on actual workplace health and productivity and sickness. And what they found, so they split the groups into two. So imagine we split you guys into two groups. These guys, we said, we want you for the next 6 months to take a 30-second or 60-second or 90-second cold shower at the end of your normal shower. And these groups, we said, don't worry about it, just crack on. Well, what they did is they followed these guys for a year. At the end of the 6 months, they said to these guys, you can either continue with the cold shower or go back to normal. Most of them actually continued with the cold shower. But at the end of the year, when they analyzed the data, the people who were having the cold shower had a 29% reduction in sickness. And they controlled for other confounding factors. Now, we also know that if those people exercised regularly, they had a 55% reduction in sickness versus people who didn't have a cold shower and didn't exercise regularly. And it's to do, we think, with all of these stress response systems and the impact on the immune system. So the next thing is about mental rehearsal. So I'm a massive fan of this. I've worked with a number of elite athletes, and they all do mental rehearsal. Before they go and do a game, they mentally rehearse them at their best. And lots of professional athletes in little breaks in the game, whether it's tennis players between points or other athletes whenever they have a little break, we know that they switch on those mental rehearsal systems again and just reimagine themselves at their best in order to lift their performance. I'm a big fan of all of us doing this. And we have a number of different interactions. You think of the amount of interactions you have on a daily basis. If you were just to take 30 seconds before a meeting or a customer interaction or a one-on-one to mentally rehearse you at your best, and what emotional state am I going to bring into this next interaction? You would find that your performance levels will lift. If you go in there with intention, thinking about what emotional state you're going to bring, what's going to be your body language, what your tone is going to be, rather than just randomly running in from session to session, you will find that your performance lifts. And all the execs that I work with have fed back and said it does lift their performance. And for me, the most important bit of mental rehearsal that you should do is at the end of the day when you come home. Before you go in to see your family, is just sit in your car or stand outside for 30 seconds and say, what me do my kids and my spouse want to see walk in the room? And just mentally rehearse. It's what I call, or what athletes call, getting your game face on. And it only takes 20 to 30 seconds, but if you do this, you will notice that the quality of your interactions will lift significantly. The next thing is about having a brain booster break. So most people, when I talk to, go into work and they work flat out all day long, and then maybe they'll have a little break in the morning or lunch, or they'll work through those breaks and they go at one pace. We now know that that is really not the best way in terms of when you're looking at how our biological systems work. So our energy regulates on what's called an ultradian cycle. Of every 90 minutes, we get peaks and troughs in those energy. Now, when we get a trough, that's when we tend to use caffeine or sugar to lift it. But the research is telling us that we can recharge our brain very, very effectively in 1 to 2 minutes. And this consists of doing a quick 30-second burst of exercise, whether it's a 30-second sprint on the spot, running up and down a couple of flights of stairs, or doing 20, 30 squats. Any of those things will burn up stress hormones that are flying around through your body, but they will also increase oxygen and blood flow to the brain and release growth factors in the brain. So once you've done the 20 to 30 seconds, I'm a big fan then of doing box breathing. Who here is anybody familiar with box breathing? So a couple of people. So this is used by military special forces to get their brains in an optimal state. And it's used by elite athletes and airline pilots to control their arousal and put their brain in an optimal state. So all you do is you breathe like a box. You can do it for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, or 5 seconds, but you just breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4, then you hold for 1, 2, 3, 4, then breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold for 4, and do that 2 or 3 times. If you do 3 cycles of that, the research shows it's a great way for what we call bottom-up control of your vagus nerve. So when you're stressed, we have what's called top-down control. Now, the vagus nerve connects your brain, your heart, your lungs, and all your visceral organs. So when you're stressed, it activates this vagus nerve. What does it do to your heart rate? What happens to your heart rate when you're stressed? Does it go up or down? It goes up. What happens to your blood pressure? It goes up, right? What happens to your breathing rate? It gets faster and it gets shallower, right? So that is the stress response that's activated by a certain area of the brain through the vagus nerve. Now, it's only taken us about 3,000 years as Western scientists to catch up with the knowledge of yogis who've been telling us that by breathing, you can actually control your heart and your brain. And we know that if you do box breathing, you can actually control your heart rate, reduce your blood pressure, and calm your brain down. You can actually bring your brain out of a stress state into a peak performance state. So the military special forces, they use this when they have a bit of time. When they are in the moment and they're highly stressed, such as in a firefight or whatever, and they need to gain control, they just do tactical breathing. So this is just one breath where they'll breathe in for 4 seconds and breathe out for 6 seconds. And even that one tactical breath is enough to just bring the brain out of very high stress into a higher level of performance. And ideally, you would drink a glass of water. So if you had that 1 to 2 minutes, quick 30-second burst of exercise, 1 minute of box breathing, drink a glass of water, that is like taking your brain out and plugging it into the wall to getting a recharge. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is being present. So this is particularly difficult to do in today's world where we have social media everywhere and we have smartphones. Has anybody ever been in meetings where people are on their phone or on their computer at the same time? Not only is it disrespectful, but people miss a lot of what's said. And if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're on your phone, we think we can multitask, but that's a myth. The brain does not multitask. What the brain does is it switches attention, and it does it quickly. So you're switching attention from your smartphone to the conversation, back to your smartphone to the conversation. And the research shows we're not as good at switching attention as we thought. So we actually just fill in those gaps, and that's when we miss important information. Now, there has been a series of research studies done in this out of the States, and they've showed that people who do a lot of multitasking, media multitasking, actually change the way that their brain functions, and they inhibit their ability to switch attention over time. So what happens is their brain starts to get distracted by more non-relevant stimuli around them. Basically, they create an ADD brain by constantly multitasking. And that brain actually starts to resemble a brain of an older adult, and they don't switch attention very well. So this constant multitasking is actually destroying our ability not only to focus, but to effectively switch attention when we need to. And that would put you at risk in an unsafe environment where you need to do lots of switching of attention. So being focused, being present is really, really important. The next thing I want to talk about is a digital detox. And what we now know is that if you interact with blue light, a source of blue light, within half an hour of going to bed, melatonin, which is your sleep hormone, drops by 28%. So blue light would be anything from a screen, whether it's a television screen, a smartphone, a tablet, or a computer. They all emit blue light, and this interferes with our melatonin, which means we are less likely to get to sleep, and we are more likely to wake up in the middle of the night and have disturbed sleep. Now, if we think about this in terms of our overall health, we know that a chronic lack of sleep significantly increases your risk of heart disease, of diabetes, of obesity, of dementia, of Parkinson's disease. Almost every disease we can talk about, we know that a chronic lack of sleep or bad sleep actually puts us at risk. And it's because when we're asleep, all of our biological repair mechanisms switch on. That's when your brain cleans itself out of toxins, but that's when your cardiovascular system repairs itself, your endocrine system, your muscles, your bones. All of this repair happens when we go to sleep. And if we're not getting good quality sleep, we interfere with our body's ability and our brain's ability to repair itself every single night. And that's what we know generally happens. So my recommendation is at least 30 minutes before you go to bed, you have a complete digital detox. Now, for some people, this is like I'm asking them to cut off a limb. I realize that, but 30 minutes will not kill you. 30 minutes, and do a wind down routine for those 30 minutes. Reading a book, ideally not on a Kindle device, but reading a book is a great way to let your brain decompress from the day's stresses. If you're into meditation, that's a perfect time to do your meditation. Or have a hot bath. If you're not into meditation, have a hot bath. That'll lower your core body temperature and help you to get to sleep, right? So there's a number of strategies that we can do, but those last 30 minutes of the day are absolutely critical to let our brain decompress and then get to sleep effectively and to stay asleep. And we know that if you have a poor night's sleep, your levels of stress hormones increase the next day. And most people get this, right? Most people realize this, that when they have a lack of sleep, they're a bit more tetchy, they're a bit more stress responsive. And we know it's because this affects your stress response system, but it also affects autonomic function. We know it changes your hormones as well. Leptin and ghrelin, which are two really important hormones around hunger and food intake, are changed when you have a bad night's sleep. That's why some people may notice that if they have a really bad night's sleep, they eat more food the next day. So ghrelin, your hunger hormone, goes up, and leptin, which is a satiety hormone, actually goes down. That means you crave foods, and it tends to be sugary, fatty, and salty foods that you eat more of the next day. So not only does it impact on your stress responsivity, but it also impacts on what you will actually choose to eat the next day. And the third thing we know is it impacts on your risk of getting into an accident. A whole host of studies out of UCLA have shown that when people are sleep deprived, if they have 6 hours of sleep, they perform the same on both driving simulator tests and tests of cognitive abilities as people who are 7 hours of sleep but have drunk enough alcohol to blow 0.05. When you have 5 hours sleep, you perform pretty much the same as people who are legally drunk, so who blow 0.1, right? But this is the interesting thing. When they ask the participants how they think they've done, the pissed people realize that they probably screwed up. The people who are sleep deprived actually think they did well. So if we think about the implications of this for not only workplace performance, but for workplace safety, you have people all around Australia coming into work, sleep deprived, performing like drunk people, but think they're doing well, think they're being safe, think they're performing well, and actually not realizing how badly their brain is actually performing. So getting that sleep sorted is pretty critical. So we know there's a whole interaction between your sleep, your productivity, your general health, and your performance, and your risk of safety-related incidents. So second last thing I want to talk about is gratitude. And I kind of stumbled upon gratitude in India 25 years ago when I bumped into a guy who had elephantitis and leprosy. And then later that day, saw a whole heap of kids outside a market who were amputees, and I later found out that their parents chopped their limbs off because they knew that Western tourists like me gave more money to amputated kids. And these were people who were, they were the untouchables, the lowest caste system in India, and basically they didn't get enough money to feed their family. So that day I decided that every single day I was going to practice gratitude and just think about the stuff that I'm grateful for in my life. And a lot of us don't think about it and don't realize that in this country, we have it better than 99% of the world's population, at least. But the issue is, guys, is that when we constantly have things, when there's no scarcity, your brain starts to take them for granted. So we take for granted the fact that we live in a very safe world, that we live in a beautiful, clean environment, that we've got really high standards of living, that that there's no war going on here, that we've got running water, that we have gas that's plugged in 24/7, that we have electricity 24/7. All of these things we start to take for granted. And then when we live in a world where we're bombarded with over 1 million advertising messages a month, we start to focus on the things that we don't have. And we start to become unhappy when we do that. And we forget about all the things that we do have that we should practice gratitude for every day. Now, Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology, has shown that if you spend 2 minutes in the morning doing a gratitude ritual, you improve your mood for the entire 24-hour period, which is pretty awesome. We also know from a meta-analysis that people who practice gratitude have got more positive emotions, they've got higher levels of well-being, they've got more hope and more optimism for the future, they're more empathetic, they're more forgiving of people who harm them or wrong them, they have less anxiety, they have less envy, they're less materialistic, and they're less depressed. Who would like all that? That stuff's free. It takes 2 minutes a day. And if you have a family, particularly a young family, I highly recommend that every dinner time you get around the table and go around and ask what you're grateful for. One thing that you're grateful for every day. Teach your little kids the art of gratitude, because it will stay with them the rest of their lives. And I'm a massive fan of bringing gratitude into the workplace. Most of the organizations that I work with end up putting a gratitude wall in the workplace, and it has a huge impact on the culture. So that's gratitude, which again is another 2-minute ritual. The last thing I want to talk about nutrition, and there's probably 100 different things I could talk about nutrition, but I wanted to think of something that most people generally wouldn't do that would actually have a really positive impact on your overall cellular health. And what we've seen that's come out of the research in the last few years, which I'm a massive fan of, is 12 or 13-hour overnight fasts, right? What we now know is that, and this is a big study done a couple of years ago, women who fast for 13 hours overnight have a 30% risk reduction in breast cancer versus women who don't. Now that is a massive change. And if they get breast cancer, they've got over a 30% risk reduction of it coming back. And all animal models have shown there are reductions in all forms of cancers in animals when you restrict their feeding to an 11-hour window. But when you let them eat late at night, they get much more cancer and metabolic conditions such as diabetes. We know that just by doing a 12-hour overnight fast, not only does your cancer risk decrease, but your risk of diabetes decreases because it helps to control insulin. And we then know that that will spill over into protecting you against Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. So the way it goes is that you have dinner, whether it's 6, 7 o'clock, and have nil by mouth other than water for the next 12 to 13 hours. Now, the reason that this works is that when you're asleep, your circadian rhythm kicks in, and your brain actually triggers this master clock in your brain, switches on all of these biological repair mechanisms, one of which is your DNA repair enzymes, which go in, run around your cells, and delete or kill off precancerous cells. We know when you eat late at night, you actually have peripheral clocks in your liver and your digestive system, and when you eat, you switch those clocks on, and they actually switch off your DNA repair enzymes. So the actual proper way to read this research is that if you eat or snack late at night, you increase your cancer risk and your risk of diabetes and all of these other diseases. So this is a very simple thing that everybody can do, unless you're a type 1 diabetic and you have issues with blood sugar. Everybody else can go 12 hours without fasting. Now, when I first went to do this, I was thinking, because I was a 9 o'clock snacker, and I was thinking, that's a hell of a long time to go without food. And then I remembered doing combat survival and resistance to interrogation training, where we did 10 days without any food whatsoever. And I thought, you know what? I'll probably make it till the morning. And it wasn't hunger, it's habit. Once you've done it once or twice, you realize it is not hunger. We are biologically wired to be able to go for long periods without food. And it's actually just habit that makes us eat at 8 or 9 or 10 o'clock at night. So just doing this one thing will not only reduce your cancer risk, but will improve your metabolism, reduce your risk of diabetes, of obesity, of Alzheimer's disease, and the emerging research is now showing it improves your sleep as well, which will then have knock-on effects for safety and performance and all of those things. So guys, there you have it. There's my 8 habits for health, safety, and performance. But one thing I want to leave you with now is that we could just do that and say, here, off you go. But there's actually going to be a takeaway this time, post this, which the ministers are going to come up and talk about. But I just wanted to introduce the concept. So just about 2 years ago, I worked with WorkSafe, with Cameron Blight, and we did a little bit of a pilot using my business, Ritualize, out to workplaces. Got really good feedback. We then approached government. And now what's going to happen is a world first in Tasmania, where my wellbeing app is going to be free to all Tasmanian businesses. And then they can invite their family members onto it, right? So this is a world first public-private partnership, funded partly by government and partly by partner businesses, and I'm running this as a not-for-profit. So the ministers will talk about it a little bit more, but I just wanted to show a little bit of a video for the last 2 minutes so that you guys can get a view on it.
New is good. We like new. House, car, baby, husband, wife, job, beginnings, positive change. Out with the old, fresh starts, all good. But sometimes life gets in the way and bad habits start to form. Unhealthy lifestyle is the leading cause of chronic illness and premature death. And here in Tasmania, we're one of the unhealthiest states in Australia. So making positive change is even more important for happier, healthier, longer, better lives. But how? Healthy Tasmania Workplaces is part of a 5-year plan to connect people and start to live better together through the Ritualize Wellbeing app. It helps you to form and sustain healthy new habits in fun, interactive ways. Our secret's keeping it small. Small changes every day that make a great big difference over time. It's scientific. We'll show you how to reprogram your genes to be healthier, happier, and higher achieving. We call this your U version 2.0. It's easy to use. First, discover your bioage. This is your starting point. Then, set rituals on your ritual board. These help you build new habits. Complete quests and make small changes that can stick. You'll earn biopoints and take years off your bioage. It's free for all businesses in Tasmania. Start getting fit for life with Ritualize.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I encourage you to just give Paul Taylor a round of applause for his first speaking session? Paul will be back very shortly to talk about the Ritualize app that he's just given us a sneak preview. I'm going off to have a cold shower. No, I'm so not having it, but I am going to try and take that on because I actually have an official duty now, and that is to welcome to the stage to tell us more about this initiative the Minister for Resources, for Energy and for Building and Construction. Would I please welcome to the stage the Honourable Guy Barnett MP to speak further about this initiative. We'll then hear from Minister Ferguson, and then Paul Taylor will be back to tell more about Ritualize.
Thank you so much, Jane. Can you hear me okay out there? Very good. Thank you, Jane, and to my colleague Michael Ferguson, Minister for Health, and to Paul Taylor. What a great dissertation we've heard. I've had the opportunity of hearing from Paul and meeting with Paul over many months now, and more recently with a demonstration in the north, in the south, across Tasmania to encourage people to be more healthy and active at work. And of course that flows through to the rest of your life. As many of you might be aware, I have type 1 diabetes, so I'm actually Diabetes Australia Ambassador. Very proud of that fact, and really keen to promote healthy lifestyles wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and part of the Poly Pedal to raise awareness and funding for diabetes every year. So it's really great to be part of that team, and of course we've got over 30,000 Tasmanians with diabetes type 1 and type 2. But the app that you've seen today, you'll hear more about it from Paul, but of course off to a great start, this Ritualize app. So the government's got behind it. We want to promote healthy lifestyles in the workplace. And this is WorkSafe Month. We're very proud of the fact that WorkSafe Tasmania has been working hard with businesses, employers, employees across the board to get that message out, that safety and health in the workplace is a top priority. And it certainly is. And just to give you some encouragement, over the last 6 years, we've seen a reduction of over 25% in Tasmania of workplace injuries. This is really important. We've got runs on the board, but there's still a lot more work to do. So I want to take my hat off to Mark Cocker, to his team at WorkSafe. We've got 38 odd displays here for WorkSafe Month and the expo here in Hobart. It's fantastic. So congratulations to all those participants, and I know from the feedback it's been really encouraging and it's been well received. So thank you for your support, all those participants here today, and also for the sponsors. I want to acknowledge the WorkCover Board. They are a key entity in Tasmania that helps promote and support those in the workplace. So it's headed up by Dr. Rob Walters. He's the chair. He's here with us today. He spoke at the breakfast this morning and the launch this morning. So I'm very pleased to work with Rob. We've already done some work earlier, some months ago, in terms of asbestos and asbestos awareness, working with the Asbestos Awareness Eradication National Organisation, and they're also here today. So there's a lot of work to do. We have a big job to do. We are making progress, a lot more work to do, but in terms of health in the workplace, if you think about it, a third of our lives in the workplace. So of course, as a government, we have this target to achieve the healthiest state by 2025, and Michael Ferguson is leading the charge to help make that happen, and he'll share a little bit more about that shortly. So it's really great to be here. Thanks for your support, for your encouragement. Let's get out there, live healthy, active lifestyles, working with others in the workplace. And without any further ado, I say congratulations and well done to Paul Taylor, the Ritualize app. Check it out. Afterwards, you will be able to have access to these apps, I'm advised, it's like a Fitbit. I'm wearing mine today. So it's keeping tabs on how we can live healthy, active lifestyles. And you've heard it already from Paul this morning. So well done, Paul, and your team. That's terrific. And I'll pass back to Jane and over to our Minister for Health, who'll tell us a little bit more. It's great to be joining together with the Minister for Health, shoulder to shoulder, making a difference for healthy lifestyles in the workplace. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much indeed to Minister Guy Barnett, and as he has suggested, we will now hear from the Minister for Health. My great pleasure to welcome to the stage the Honourable Michael Ferguson MP to speak further, and then we will hear again from Paul Taylor with further details about the Ritualize website and app. Please make the Minister very welcome.
Thanks a lot, Jane, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And it's fantastic to be here at the Expo, and it's important that we all contribute so that we have a safer workplaces, but also a healthier Tasmanian community. And I want to really thank my friend and colleague Guy Barnett, who has delivered his usual passionate address when it comes to workplace health and safety, but also the health of all Tasmanians. Guy's got a fantastic record going back some 15, could be 20 years of promoting a healthier lifestyle because it's what we owe each other. And just as we've identified that workplace health and safety is everybody's responsibility across the workplace, it's not just the responsibility of the shareholders or the boss or the managers on the floor, it's everyone's responsibility. The same is true for our health. Primarily, we're all responsible for our own health, but there are things that we can do in our workplaces as well. And that's why it's great to be here today. We want to promote improving health and wellbeing in the workplace and in the wider Tasmanian community. And of course, it stands to reason because most of us spend most of our lives working in a workplace amongst colleagues, and for that reason, there is a huge opportunity for us to adopt workplace practices which promote better health and prevent ill health. Now, the Healthy Tasmania plan was launched last year, and that had a specific focus and a targeted way of addressing smoking rates in Tasmania, as well as improving the quality of our nutrition and diet, and importantly as well, reducing obesity, including through diet and physical activity. And so it makes sense that this partnership between my health department, Guy's workplace, WorkSafe Tasmania, as well as across government, including the Department of Premier and Cabinet, every government agency, and I hope you'll be pleased to know every government business have been involved. So there are now support tools in place, ways that people can be empowered and better informed about the opportunities that exist, so that you're not left all on your own to sort it out on your own. So the Healthy Tasmanian Workplaces, which we're launching, aims to reduce smoking, overweight and obesity rates, encouraging healthier lifestyles, creating community partnerships between government, the private sector and the community, and also keeping workers that are at risk or living with chronic conditions healthier. Now, there's something very specific that we're doing to help. Importantly, the initiative includes an innovative new tool. It's a health and safety app which is called Ritualize Tasmania. It's about a ritual. It's about habits and getting into healthy habits. Now, Ritualize is an app that you can download on your phone. It's a practical tool. It's for workplaces to engage with staff and promote health, safety and wellbeing. Because of this partnership, Ritualize Tasmania is going to be free for our Tasmanian workplaces from November 20. Shortly, Paul Taylor, who's the innovator behind this app, who was speaking earlier and will shortly speak again, he will outline exactly how the app works and how you can implement it in your workplaces for no cost. So also, while you're moving around this expo today, I'd like to also recommend that you visit our friendly staff from the Department of Health and Human Services stall. I can see the stall, it's immediately behind this bank of chairs, and Healthy Tasmania Partnership is on display, and we want you to be involved in it. We want you to see that it's also something that you co-own with us, because it's not about government, it's about government in partnership with the Tasmanian community. Also, if you're on Facebook, the friendly team have asked me if I'd put in an ad for them. I will do that. If you'd like their page on Facebook, it's Healthy Tasmania. You go into a draw to win one of these smart bracelets. Actually, I think there's a number of them. So as you can see, also, our Healthy Tasmania website is a resource which is now up and running. We want to continue to build on that and provide more resources that are actually useful and can be implemented in your workplaces. So with those words, I'll close. Thank everybody for what you're doing every day, not just to have a safe workplace, but also a healthy one. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Ferguson. And indeed, it is now my great pleasure to invite Paul Taylor to jog back up onto the stage. He is going to now share with you more details around his innovation, Ritualize Tasmania. Cheers.
Thank you. Okay. So guys, what I'll do is I'll just give you a couple of minutes of a tour through the app so as you can kind of see the different features. Okay. Did anybody get my passcode there? So as we're looking, when you come into the app, the first thing you're going to do is a BioAge test. So I'm not going to run through that, but basically you'll get a score that assesses your questions to different aspects of lifestyle, nutrition, sleep, exercise, all of those things. You get a score. It doesn't matter if you're younger or older. That's largely irrelevant. But what we'll then do is we'll then take you to a list of rituals. Now, this one's, I've already ticked some of these, but these are rituals that are personalized to you and how they will impact upon your BioAge. So for any of them, you'll look and you'll say, what's this 12-hour fasting? You click on the little info button, comes up with the description of what the ritual is. Okay, yeah, I like that. I'm going to add that in. So, and you can see over here the BioAge reduction. This is if you do these rituals. So if I was to do this 12-hour fasting 4 days a week, it would take a third of a year off. So there's a whole different list on them, so you can go in and select whatever rituals are relevant to you. And then whenever you have selected them, you come into what's called your ritual board. Now that's mine for last week. If I just go on to this week's, you can see none of them have been done today. I'll click on, so I did have my cold shower. I had an alcohol-free day last night, so if I just tick those things off on there. The other thing is if I click on this move target here, we've got a way that integrates all sorts of movements. So my steps here, I'm connected into to my device. You don't have to have a device. You can connect to your phone or you don't have to. You can log activities if you want. You can do a whole heap of workouts. If I click on workouts, we got 5 different levels of workout. Level 1 is for 55-year-old overweight Mr. and Mrs. Nurkenfurken. Level 8 is for really fit people. And in this one, this is an 8-minute workout. You can preview any of the exercises. You have a look and say, okay, what's this one? You click on it, you'll get a little educational video. We'll not really look through that. But what will happen, as soon as you're ready, you can add your music to it. And then you press next, press start. And all you got to do is stick your phone in the corner of the room, you have your music going, and off you go. And it'll count you in, and then you'll just be off. So you can do it anytime, any place, anywhere, no equipment, and appropriate for everybody. This is level 5, as I say, which starts to get pretty hard. We got a whole heap of different recipes in here, hundreds of different recipes basically. You click on it, have one, see one that you like. Okay, what's that one? You can add that, do whatever you want. We also have in the Learn section box breathing. I talked about box breathing. We got a whole heap of different little box breathing videos, and they take a little bit of time to load, but we've got a 1 minute, a 2 minute, a 4 minute, and we got a couple of different variations. And then we have a 5 and a 10 minute sleep meditation that you can put your phone on airplane mode, stick it beside your bed, and just go through a sleep meditation. Other things that we have in the Learn section, a whole heap of lifestyle videos. So these are videos, I'll just skip through that intro page, got it. Whole heaps of different videos on different aspects of your life, and they're all kind of 1 to 2 minute videos. So we got over 50 educational videos in there, lots of them linked to rituals, just to help people to make little changes. And then we have, really importantly, a whole social feed. So here's where you'll see where your friends and workmates, the sort of stuff that they're doing. So you can have a look through it. You can give people a thumbs up. You can comment on people. Matthew's just tipped a whole load of stuff. I'm going to add a comment. If I can't be bothered typing, I'll just send him a high five, right? So there's that kind of whole social interaction element to it. Now, I was talking about the rituals earlier. If I go in, say I'll go in and tick off a couple that I'd done yesterday. So if I tick these things off, and then you'll see that my bio age initially, and I'll log the ritual. What I hadn't talked about was gratitude. We've got a whole gratitude list in there that you can tick off your gratitude as well. But you'll notice that my bio age initially was 43. I've just ticked off a whole heap of rituals, and now you can see my bio age is coming down. So this is what we call a positive feedback loop. You do the behavior and you see the impact straight away. That drives what we call self-efficacy, the belief that what I'm doing is actually making a difference. So here then you'll see leaderboards. There's only a couple of teams in my quest. This is just a sample one, but you can click on that. You can see what different guys are doing, and you can add them as friends, or you can see what they're putting in the ritual board. But that's a really important part, because if I go back here and just slide across to the left, on my profile, I can completely control my profile. So I can control who sees my bio age, whether or not I show it. I can keep all sorts of stuff private. So people have complete control over their profile and their privacy. We've got a whole FAQ section. Devices I mentioned earlier on, lots of different devices that we connect into, Apple Health Kit, Google Fit. But anyway, that's a very quick whistle-stop tour. Now, the really important thing to say is, you can't start this yet. It's in the App Store, but you won't be able to get access to it. The first quest is going to be on November the 20th. So if you're interested for your business, just go to either the WorkSafe website or ritualize.com/Healthy Tasmania and register your interest. We will send out access codes to every business that's registered in the next couple of weeks, and then everybody together will start the first ignition quest on the 20th of November. Now, as we go through, this isn't just a 4 or a 6 week intervention. The whole idea of this is that it's going to be a year-long intervention, and I'll just quickly bring up a last slide to talk about. So here is what the plan is at the minute. So we'll do an ignition quest before Christmas. We'll do another little quest about surviving Christmas, probably the 12 days of Christmas. Then we'll do another one in January, because everybody's invigorated in January. And we'll do a quest on movement, one on thinking, on mental health and resilience, one on sleeping better, one on eating better. We're also going to do a social connectedness quest. And we might run a few little other things like diabetes and stuff like that people are interested in. So this is a 12-month journey that's free to every single business in Tasmania. Everybody who does come on to it can invite friends or family members, as I said earlier on. So that way we kind of increase that ripple effect, or what we call the nudging effect. So my personal challenge is for every single person in here to go back and register their business and talk to their friends, to get them to go back to the WorkSafe website where they'll find out about it, or straight to the Ritualize website and register your business, so that we all get a big push for the 20th of November. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the app.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I wanted to call that a feedback appreciation loop, also known as applause. Thank you for showing your gratitude to Paul Taylor. Before we move to morning tea, which of course is a beautiful, healthy morning tea which takes place in the cafe area, I'm going to invite Cameron Wright from WorkSafe Tasmania. He's going to safely sprint up to the stage. He has 2 gifts for our ministers, who I trust are still with us, and I'll hand over to Cameron Wright.
So if we could have Minister Ferguson and Minister Barnett come up and join us on stage. So thanks everyone for turning up and hearing the message about healthy Tasmanian workplaces. Obviously we have the Ritualize app, but we're also supporting the app and that intervention with a broader initiative around healthy Tasmanian workplaces. So we have existing WorkSafe resources, such as our simple guide to workplace wellbeing. So we'll be giving those out at morning tea as well. And go to the WorkSafe website, got lots of templates and tools about healthier workplaces. So it's not just concentrating on individual behaviour change or education, but we're also looking at creating healthier and safer work environments. So please go to the WorkSafe website, suss out our existing resources, and we look forward to having you on board Ritualize Tasmania. And without further ado, and those at morning tea, we've got a few extras of these to hand out. They're WorkSafe branded activity trackers to help you with your healthier lifestyle. And we'd like to start that by giving one to Minister Ferguson and also to Minister Barnett. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Has it got a GPS in it as well? So you can track where I am?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I just suggested to the ministers, no excuses now. Those cold showers start tomorrow morning. Can I now encourage everyone, please avail yourselves of a beautiful, healthy and fresh morning tea. It's happening just behind where you're sitting now in the cafe area, and we'll be back very shortly. Thank you.